I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Mount Diablo School District for October 8th, 2018. I'm going to do a quick roll call. Trustee Durkee. Here. Trustee Hansen.
Here.
Trustee Mayo.
Here.
Trustee Lawrence.
Here.
And a trustee for the night is Megan Chechawan. Did I get that right? Close? I'm Trustee Mason. And Megan, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You. This is the time when we report out on the action taken in closed session. We had 2 possible cases of anticipated litigation under legal code, government code 54956.9, and on both those cases we just received information. This is the time when it's public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District that is not on this agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute limit may be shortened. If there are multiple speakers on any one subject, the public comment period may be moved to the end of the meeting. Speakers are not allowed to yield their time. The board operates under the Brown Act, which requires us to do one of 3 things during public comment, which is to ask a clarifying question, refer your item to a future agenda, or have assign a staff person to take care of it. Having said that, if you're bringing a concern to us, you're not going to probably get an answer that you want to hear tonight, but know that your concerns are heard and they'll be dealt with in an appropriate manner. Our first speaker, and only at this time, is Julie Jameson.
Thank you, President Mason, members of the board, Dr. Meyer, and a special hello to Ms. Chechawan, my former student. My name is Julia Jameson, and I am an English teacher at Mount Diablo High School. I'm here this evening in my capacity as a media rep for this site, and I'm here about an overage. Now, overages happen, and usually they're resolved quickly. This particular overage is going to prove a little trickier. Last Wednesday, one of my colleagues contacted me to inform me that a new student had been enrolled in one of her classes, putting her over. And when she contacted administration to ensure that they were aware of the overage, administration advised her that it was not an overage they could resolve. The new student was a 9th grader, and when the student came to Mount Diablo High School, there were 0 available seats in biology. Our site administration contacted the district office to advise them that there were no spaces in biology for this student, to see if the student could be placed at a different school site where a seat was available. Our site administration was instructed to give the student a schedule anyway. The only way to do so was to put this teacher over in one period of biology. This overage concerns me particularly because under Article 6.1.3.7 of Media's contract with the district, no laboratory class will be enrolled to a level that each student does not have a lab space. The science labs at Mount Diablo High School are subject to smaller class size than the maximum class size allowable by contract due to their small size and the limited number of lab spaces. Student safety obviously is a concern when there are more students in a science lab than there are spaces for. These class size limits were negotiated by former Assistant Superintendent Chris Holleran and former Media President Guy Moore in November of 2015, and their primary concern is to ensure that all students in a laboratory class are safe. When teachers are forced to accept overages of students in laboratory science classes, student safety is compromised. It is my hope that there is a solution somewhere in the district for this overage and that you will give it all due attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have more public comment? Yes. Jim sounds like Skyball. Thank you for the prompt, that was pretty good.
Scheibel, but very close. I'm used to it, it's okay. So good evening, Superintendent Meyer, Board President Mason, members of the board. My name is Jim Scheibel. I just wanted to come over and introduce myself. I'm the new Executive Director at Clayton Valley Charter High School. So it's good to meet you, even though it's through the podium. I just want to also come and talk about just two things real quick where I think we have an opportunity for some collaboration. I want to thank the board for their July 23rd meeting where you added Clayton Valley to the list of eligible campuses for the bond. One thing that I'm hoping to work with your staff on is I know the materials that went out in June did not have Clayton Valley listed, and the bond resolution from that July 23rd meeting also did not have Clayton Valley listed because it was a verbal ad. If there's anything that you guys have you want us to make sure we're getting out to our community that shows that Clayton Valley is now listed as part of the bond, we would love to distribute that as factual information so that they have the correct information, because they all did receive the mailer in June that only had the 5 high schools on it and not Clayton Valley. So we'd love to collaborate with you on that if there's an opportunity, or just a message we can pass along to our families, because I think, again, that's a benefit to the entire district, whether it's our campus, which may or may not get funds, but at least now is eligible, or all the other districts that are eligible for that our kids go to before they show up in 9th grade at Clayton Valley. The other piece that I know that there's been some tension on, caused both, I think, by the predecessor in my role, as well as the natural friction that exists between charters and districts, is some of our Prop 39 pieces, and I would love to have that, continue that conversation to try to get that rolling and get to a solution where our energy is spent on educating kids and not on adult interests that just take up time and money and capacity that could be better spent towards educating all the kids in the district and making sure that they have that equitable education that I think we are all fighting for. So I'm going to hang out after the meeting. I'd love to give all of you a card so you have my cell phone number and can contact me if anything comes up. But it's nice to meet you. I know it's through the podium, but I appreciate being here, and I've been nothing but welcome in Clayton so far, and would love to continue to partner with you guys here at Mount Diablo. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. George Fulmore.
Superintendent, board, staff, general public, don't get me started on Clayton Valley High School, please. Does $680,000 ring a bell? I think I read that somewhere. Awful. Anyway, welcome back to all the students and teachers, and I'm back as a volunteer. I'm at YVE Kinder this year and Cambridge 4th grade. I love it. I love the monument. I love the kids. The teachers are terrific. God, they're great. I just don't think people realize how good education is in this district. It's wonderful to be there and be part of the whole thing. So congratulations. You know, as you know, I'm a Latino guy, and so you know, I follow that in the monument. And test scores are out; they're awful again. The achievement gap. You know, I'm a big promoter of bilingualism and all the advantages. So I don't think that the gap, you know, is that big a deal. But I think it does have to be explained and addressed. Part of the students are in the English Learner Program. Probably the majority are not. So that's a little bit awkward to try to represent. But at least we could have some presentations on the English Learner Program, how it's doing, how many kids are in it, what the advantages are, blah blah blah. I think that's a good thing to go with early in the year. There is DLAC, but to me, I'll be frank. I think DLAC's lost its way. I don't know what's going on there. You got leadership that doesn't even have English learner kids. You spent a lot of money on leadership there. Where's the leaders? Where are the leaders? They're not here. They haven't been here. They're not running for the school board. They're not representing the community. You know, I don't think it's your fault. I don't think it's their fault, but it's a reality. And I've been looking for years for Latino leaders to be involved in the district and even in Concord politics. Nobody ran from the monument for the council seat that was established there. Anyway, I'm optimistic because what I see in the schools is wonderful, and I love volunteering. I did get a letter, you know, recently that said your volunteer services to Mount Diablo are appreciated. However, we get to inform you that we are declining to reinstate you as a volunteer in Meadow Homes. You know, so the volunteers are we're in a bad position if we don't get support by the administrator, I guess, at the school. And I still don't know what happened there. I gave somebody a hug that didn't want a hug, and you know, that's 3 years ago. I still can't get back in. It doesn't speak well for the district. You need a hugging policy. You need a better support for volunteers so that you know, we know what the rules are and what happens, how we could discuss things if somebody you know, perceives that something didn't go well. So I love volunteering. I love that I have the opportunity. And I'm not going to pursue it again this year, but I'd love to get back to Meadow Homes next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Persha?
Well, I'm back after your vote at the last meeting. Did you think I would give up so easily? Majority rules. I will never follow the majority, even if it's accepted by the majority. Harming children is never okay. I will only follow what I believe is in the best interest of children and is age appropriate. To be so explicit in the initial curriculum for 5th grade about sex and describing it as the penis is inserted into the vagina is not age appropriate. In addition to that, there is an exercise, an in-class exercise, where boys and girls are together and they cut and paste the steps for reproduction, including a step that is cut out that says the penis is inserted into the vagina. Not age appropriate. Of course, I would say that this is a very concrete description, and since our kids are concrete learners, and they haven't gotten to the abstract phase of thinking, and some of these concepts are abstract, I would say that that description is explicit enough for a 10-year-old to know how to have sex. And I would believe that they're not developmentally ready to make that decision. You do not have to be graphic in your description of sex or what it is. You can separate reproduction from sexual anatomy, and you could talk about reproductive anatomy and not be so concrete. And I hope you will modify the teacher script and the content to be age appropriate, as the law defines age appropriate as what is typical for an age or age group. So what is typical for 10-year-olds in terms of behavior, in terms of cognitive ability, and including developmental ability. And I hope that you will keep working on that. I'm going to be back next time too. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the public comment at this time?
I have one. I'm turning my card. Michael Schneider.
What was your name, sir?
Michael Schneider.
Michael Schneider?
Oh, it's down for 9.4. Did you want public
It's
comment?
related, but it's different.
Okay.
All right, come on up.
I apologize, I didn't realize it had made it into the agenda. Okay. Hello, Superintendent and board members. My name is Michael Schneider. I have a son who's at Ignacio Valley Elementary as a TK student this year. I'm concerned that we are 8 weeks into the school year and my child's school has had no safety education for its students or the parents regarding pedestrian bicycle safety. Already this school year alone, we've had 4 instances when the district has had children being struck by vehicles on or near district property. Not only is this traumatic to the children and their families, it's also a distraction in the classrooms with their classmates and within the community. This prohibits learning. So tomorrow night at the Concord City Council meeting, the city mayor will be making a proclamation of the International Walk to School Day for all of its schools located within the city of Concord. I'm asking the district not only to adopt the same as it is on the agenda, but to also expand it into more of an educational safety program for the entire month of October. With many of the schools having similar awareness for walking our children to school, the district could provide more of a proactive role in safety awareness for bicycle pedestrian education for not only our children and parents, but also coordinate with the cities to help educate the public. The month of October is the beginning of the rainy months, shorter daytime sunlight due to daylight savings time, and of course Halloween. By increasing awareness and education of school zones, safe routes to school, coordinating with cities for better coverage of crossing guards, and finally updating signage within school zones to the public, we could all benefit with a healthier lifestyle of getting out of our cars for a few minutes and spend it with our children, walking them to school, discussing the school activities. The best part of this type of program is the district would not be reinventing the wheel. The federal and state Department of Transportation has created guidelines and framework on how a symbiotic relationship can exist within a district, the cities, our children, and the public. The information, including the safe routes to school and expanded school zones, to name a few, is out there to assist everyone for the past 10 years, but only a few items have been adopted by some of the cities and within the district. We need to do a better job to get this information out to our children sooner in the school year, and that can only happen if we have guidelines that are set forth by the district. This is a win-win for everyone. With better communication within the district and all the communities the district serves, our city governments can more easily put standardized safety procedures in place, providing the best safety environment for all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think that concludes our public comment. So we're on to recognitions and resolutions. Our first resolution is for Red Ribbon Week, which is a tongue twister always. During Red Ribbon Week, schools and many community agencies throughout California will join together to highlight their commitment of drug and tobacco-free society. Through this proclamation, the Mount Deb Unified School District Board of Education urges all students, staff, parents, and members of our community to wear a red ribbon during Red Ribbon Week and to support efforts to make our schools and community drug and tobacco-free.
Madam President, I move that the board adopt resolution 18/19-19 declaring October 22nd through 31st, 2018 Red Ribbon Week.
Thank you.
Second.
Did you want to say it?
I didn't make the motion. I spent several years as president stumbling over it.
And that passes 5-0-0. And next we have resolution number 18/19-20, National School Lunch Week.
Madam President, I would move that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 18/19-20, National School Lunch Week.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And that passes 5-0-0. And next we have resolution number 18/19-21, Banned Books Week. Banned Books Week is September 23rd to September 29th. It's an annual event celebrating the freedom to read banned books. Week brings together the entire book community, librarians, booksellers, publishers, journalists, teachers, and readers of all types in shared support of the freedom to seek and to express ideas, even those some consider unorthodox or unpopular. By focusing on efforts across the country to remove or restrict access to books, Banned Books Week draws national attention to the harms of censorship.
Madam President, I move that the board approve item 9.3, resolution number 18/19-21, Banned Books Week.
Thank you.
I'll second that as a former English teacher.
Oh, yeah. And that passes 5-0-0. And we have one more resolution tonight, resolution 18/19-22, International Walk to School Day. International Walk to School Day is a global event and involves communities from more than 40 countries walking and biking to school on the same day. International Walk to School Day began in 1997 as a one-day event. Over time, this event has become part of a movement for year-round safe routes to school and a celebration. Today, thousands of schools across America from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico participate in International Walk to School Day, which we could always do better at getting information out on.
Madam President, I move that the board approve item 9.4, resolution number 18/19-22, International Walk to School Day.
Thank you.
Second.
I would like to say in here, I appreciated Mr. Schneider's comments about this and the way you kind of linked it to the International Walk to School Day. It has a relationship, but I appreciated your kind of common sense approach and your appeal to the district and schools to talk more and advocate more for that safety, because you're right, we've had several really traumatic events occur out there on our streets. So I think you had a couple of good ideas and I appreciated that. That I think we can act on.
And that passes 5-0-0. And now we have the public employee appointment, which I'll turn over to Dr.
I have a comment card submitted for 9-4.
Oh.
And I had one for 9-3.
I'm going to fire Ms. Hanson.
I am the worst vice president. I was a really good board president. I'm the worst board vice president you'll ever find. I'm better as president.
Okay, Denise Pership for 9.3.
Well, the district just passed Banned Book Week, highlighting that the value of free and open access to information is important, and I would agree, except for one little small point. There is a book I highlighted to you a few weeks ago called It's Perfectly Normal, and it's probably likely in your elementary school library. It says for 10 and up. It's in lots of libraries in elementary schools, by the way. It's also in your public library. But this book has information on abortion, an entire chapter on abortion for 10-year-olds, an entire chapter on masturbation, because, well, everybody does it, and an entire chapter on IUD and condoms, as well as other contraceptions, specifically for women. Now, I have a 10-year-old who was 10 and just turned 11 about a month ago, and I really don't want her to know about an IUD. In fact, I don't even really want her to know about tampons, not yet, because I'm afraid she might use one, and she may do so in a way which is harmful to her. But one of the most banned books in America, according to the 2014 NPR article, is this book right here. Almost every single year it's on the top 10. So I'm asking you as a board, is this age appropriate as you designated it in your vote just a couple minutes ago? Is this age appropriate for elementary school aged children to view, and includes a topic and definition of anal and oral sex as well as vaginal sex, because of course we have to be equally apply all the definitions about sexuality and about how to have sex with 10-year-olds. I hope you'll look into that too. Thank you.
Sarah Zaccoli for 9.4.
Good evening. I just wanted to again thank you for putting the resolution on the agenda and approving it. I got started with the whole walk to school thing with Michael Schneider. He invited me to join the conversation with the City of Concord about crossing guards, and how funny, City of Concord is the only city in Mount Diablo Unified that does not pay for crossing guards at its elementary schools. So the mayor kindly set up a little talk with the police department where they explained not likely to happen. Although saddened by it, I did understand where he was coming from. We now have such a large amount of distracted drivers and distracted walkers, which got me to thinking. My son has been in 2 elementary schools. He started off at Wren, and then he's now at Holbrook. And I asked him, I said, how much time, are you given about safety, pedestrian safety? Do you know how to walk safely to school? I know you know how to get there, but I never let my son walk because he'd have to cross Port Chicago Highway. And for me, he's only 8, he just turned 9. It's not safe for him. But when he is old enough to walk, would I want him to? Probably not. Why? Because I'm failing him. I'm failing him, and sadly you guys are failing him. My son cannot recall receiving any structural information about safety, on how to be a safe pedestrian. I think that the worst part is that I haven't taught my son. He's not prepared because I didn't prepare him. But I really think that it's the school and the parent that need to communicate together. I love finding out what my son is being taught during the week from the principal's report at my son's school, because I love being able to support that. I think it's important as a parent to be able to support that. Sadly, I hadn't brought up pedestrian safety too much because I thought, well, I'm waiting to hear from the school start the conversation to give me a good starting point to say, well, this is what you learned in school, let's broaden the conversation. So I look forward to this Wednesday walking to school with the Vice Mayor of Concord, and I also invite all of you to go to your local elementary school and walk to school with some of the students and start the conversation. I think this is a very, very good opportunity, and I, like Michael, would like to see more structured instruction on how to be a good pedestrian, especially in the elementary school years, because that's where the conversation needs to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I will turn it over to Dr. Meyer.
Thank you.
One more comment on 9.4. Yes.
There's a request for another comment on 9.4.
Well, since you turned in a card for 9.4 yet, you can.
Sarah did say, yes, this all started trying to get the city of Concord to reenact crossing guards. I do realize that there is some spotty programs that the city of Concord is running, but we are in talks of resurrecting crossing guards. And so I've spent the last month going ahead and collecting the data from what other cities have done, and that's being submitted to the city of Concord. And I do have the support of several members on the council that the existing 4-year volunteer program that they thought was working, they just found out recently that it has not been, and so I look forward in getting that information to the district, and also giving you, the board, information on what exactly those guidelines were set forth. 34-page document, but it's PDF, and it gives everybody a heads up as to how far we're behind and what direction we need to go. So
Thank you for the update. Okay.
It is my pleasure to make a recommendation for the position of Valhalla Elementary School Principal. And Board President Mason and Board of Education, I would like to recommend Lisa Keck. Lisa comes to us with a Bachelor's of Arts from the College of Staten Island in Early Childhood Education. She also has a Master's of Science from the College of Staten Island in Education. She holds a multiple subject credential and an administrative services credential. Currently, hopefully for only a moment or two, she is the Vice Principal of Sequoia Middle School. She has experience as a beginning teacher and support coach in Mount Diablo Unified. She also has experience as an elementary teacher at both Strandwood Elementary and Hidden Valley Elementary, and also was an elementary teacher in New York City. So I am honored to recommend Lisa Keck for the position of Principal, Valhalla Elementary.
Thank you.
delighted to move that the board approve item 10.1, appointment of Lisa Keck as principal, elementary school, with assignment at Valhalla Elementary School.
Thank you.
Second.
You have other elementary principals here cheering. Amy, I see you out there.
And that passes 5-0.
Good evening, Dr. Meyer, Mr. Espinoza, the members of the board. I am beyond thrilled and honored to be appointed principal of Valhalla Elementary School. It's been a long time, a dream of mine to do this. I've been in the district 19 years and felt the support from everyone in this room. As a teacher, a peer coach, vice principal, and now principal, I plan to continue the long-standing tradition of excellence at Valhalla Elementary, and I'm looking forward to working with colleagues in this room and everyone in here, so thank you. I have my family with me today. My son's doing their homework. My husband is also an educator, he's at College Park, and my wonderful colleague, friend, work husband, Mr. Kevin Honey. So thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to meet the community at Valhalla.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. That takes us to board member reports. You ready, Trustee Durkee? Sure.
Thank you very much. Last time I didn't do a report, I just want to catch up on one thing. Ms. Hanson did a great job of talking about the Career Pathways Advisory Committee meeting, so I did also attend that. We were in different breakout sessions. And I just wanted to acknowledge Heather Fontanilla for her great work in organizing those. I can see over time they're getting better and better, and you can tell she's being very thoughtful about how to employ or engage employers in a way that's really meaningful for them, which is of course important. So on September 26th, I'm still a member of the board for something called California Adult Education Administrators Association, so I traveled to Sacramento to participate in that. And I'm only sharing that because there's some new exciting information for adult education across the state is now going to be able to report on measures or metrics for serving immigrants in our community, something called immigrant integration. So it's not just about language acquisition, learning English, but about all aspects of becoming integrated in our community. So that was a huge political push, frankly, and feeling great about that going through. That evening I attended the Budget Advisory Committee along with Ms. Mayo. We were presented with the overview of the 2017-18 unaudited actuals, similar to what's been presented to the board, with explanations of the differences between estimated end of year and this budget. Rose Ramos shared information on certificates of participation, and that Mount Diablo received, I think, about $30,000 more than was anticipated, so that was good news. They also provided some good handouts that I think should be shared broadly from school services talking about Proposition 98. There's a lot of misinformation about school funding that's required through Prop 98. So I'll just say that much. If people are interested, we can provide more information. 27th, there was this, I think most of us were there, the County Teacher of the Year dinner, which was really always is a lovely recognition. I think 22 teachers have been selected by their districts. 4 finalists coming into the event. There are 4 finalists that had the opportunity to be introduced by either a student or a family member, which is always very nice, and to share their stories, who inspired them as teachers, and it's just clear, everyone there just loves teaching. So. And then during the dinner, 2 people, it's announced the 2 finalists that have been selected of all these teachers to go forward to Sacramento for the statewide competition. And proud to say that both of the teachers were Mount Diablo teachers, so we were thrilled to see that. Kelly Perkins is special education teacher at Ignacio Valley High School, and Rosie Reed, English ELD U.S. history teacher at Northgate. So very proud of both of them, and when you listen to them speak, you understand why they were given this recognition. So, and it speaks volumes about Mount Tabor. October 3rd was the first of this year's speaker series, and it would happen to be on food services, a great presentation, highlighting the many exciting new practices and options for students, all very focused on healthy eating. And I want to thank Board Member Lawrence for his commitment and leadership around this issue, his passion for this issue. Dominic Murphy, Director of Food Services, staff did a great job. They brought food for us to sample, so that was fun and lovely and delicious. And they explained kind of their new vision, answered questions. We had some great questions from students, including students, and it was really a great kickoff to the speaker series. And then the 4th, I attended the first Concord High School Career Fair, which is for students and parents to learn about post-high school graduation education and training options. Great. I was really pleased to see the great representation from a lot of construction, building, trade, apprenticeship programs, which is something we're really trying to help families know more about as opportunities out of high school, because they lead to good jobs and wonderful careers. And I just want to thank Sheila Burgum, who's the college career advisor at Concord High School, for organizing us. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hansen?
Oh, a couple of those I can underscore, which is Teacher of the Year. It's always a great celebration, and yes, we did score big time with both of our teachers coming in as the County Teachers of the Year, and we're quite proud of that. So thanks to them for great teaching. I also went to our Career Tech. It was our summer internship program that's really very active, and this was a celebration of the businesses, and it's labor and business and all sorts of organizations that work with our students during the summer doing internships in the business world. And the kids actually are sort of taken, I don't even want to call them kids, they're young adults, are taken under the wing of business mentors, and one of our biggest supporters is really John Muir Hospital. And I think they had probably a fourth or a third of our student interns this past summer, and they take them into areas, they love them. They love our students, all of these folks. I had a chance to go around and talk to all of them. They love our students because they said they're very mature and very prepped and ready to come into this working world. And they screen them and make sure they're a good match. And some of the things the students did at John Muir, everything from lab work, which surprised me. I learned a lot about some of the areas they go into. They're not shy about taking them into any department. And the students are sort of adopted by an adult mentor and really walk through and really actively participate in some of the work there. And they said our students were, I said, you're taking them in the lab, which seems startling to me because you're doing blood and other things. And they said they're incredibly mature and incredibly cooperative with taking adult learning and applying it. So they're very safe, they're very well supported. And we had somebody which surprised me, which is from our Farmers Market organization, and I didn't realize it was an entire organization, and how much work they do beyond just, because usually you say farmers markets, you think farmers. He went through, and this is what's nice about the career tech education and about these partnerships, is how much you learn about the jobs that are in an industry. And so when you say farmers market, you think farmers. And students go, well, I don't want to be a farmer. Well, then he told me about 24 other jobs related, including public relations and that kind of thing, technology that happen within farmers markets. It's an entire organization. So the students go in these and learn so much more about these professions, and they love it. And we have some that have returned multiple summers. They really enjoy that partnership. So I was pleased to be able to be there. Then the other thing I went to was probably the Mayor's Conference, which they rotate around. And this month, it was in Hercules. And it's all the Contra Costa mayors. And I went on to support actually Cindy Gershon, one of our teachers at Mount Diablo High School, who probably stands on her own when I say her name. But she is really avid in promoting health and nutrition, and her program that she's working on, which is Farm to Taste, and she has CCTV involved in that, and they're doing an entire program of cooking and showing how you grow the food, you prepare it, and you get it to students to change the way they eat. She is a shameless self-promoter. I said if I had half her skill. She is incredible, and the evening kind of focused on her. They always have a keynote speaker, and it was Cindy. And CCTV was down there, and I really applaud them for her ability to get in there and get some of that funding from our local television station to go toward education, because we haven't really had a fair share in education of those public government funds, and she's done a great job of getting in there and squeezing them. And then Mrs. May will probably tell you more about CAC, the special ed group, and they had their meeting as well. No, I'm going to save that because I've talked plenty. Anyway, it was a good time.
Good segue to Mrs. Trustee Mayo.
Thank you very much. My first item up for my report is a little bit of show and tell, because I was able to visit our adult education class at Pleasant Hill Middle School. Whoops. Thank you to staff for putting the colorful border behind this image. This class meets on Thursday at 1 o'clock. It's the quilting class for adult education. There are over 70 men and women that are involved in this program that meet every Thursday. And they do everything from sort fabrics that are donated. All of the fabrics and threads and bindings are donated material that have been given by folks that are cleaning out closets at their homes because they've decided they're not going to sew anymore, or stores have gone out of business, and so they donate the fabric to this particular quilting program. The only thing that the quilting class purchases is the batting for all of the quilts, and they order 20 bolts of batting. If you know the size of batting bolts, they're huge. They're as large as some things you see on the football field that young men crash into for exercise. And they, when they are unbound, they just explode because they're they're wrapped under pressure. So they purchased 20 of those. It costs them $600 a year just to ship the batting to Mount Diablo Adult Education Center for their work, and that takes them through their quilting program for about a year. So in order to raise the money for this program, for the quilts that they do and other items, they participate in the Adult Ed Craft Exposition and Holiday Fair, which is, mark your calendar now, on December 1st. Not only will be quilts and other items be available for purchase by the public, but also woodworking items and jewelry, other items that are made by different programs there at the Adult Ed facility. What I want to share is that you can purchase quilts there. There will be over 25 quilts that are available for purchase. As I said, they're all sewn by volunteers. They are backed. They are beautifully stitched, and there is also a raffle for this particular quilt. It is all hand applique, and if you're familiar with hand applique, that is intense work, and it takes a lot of detail to complete something as gorgeous as this is. And it's a full-size quilt. It's not a miniature quilt. It is beautiful. And the tickets are $1 a piece, which is a bargain. So I'm hoping that you'll drop by the Adult Ed program and pick up a ticket. And I wanted to share with you, we think of quilting bees as a social hour. Yes, it is a social hour for women and men, as I said, from age 30 to age 85 that participate in the program. They have an opening presentation. They get a quilt pattern once a month. They do typically small quilts for hospice centers and other hospital facilities for children and adults. And then they work on those particular patterns for a month, and then they can move on to another pattern. Some of the women do the sewing only, and men, I should say, only at the center, or some of them do projects at home and then bring the pieces to finish at the quilting center. Here, every week, there were 6 people that showed off at displayed, I should say, at least 6 quilts that they had finished in the last week. And this is one example of one, and I think you'll all, the woman that's sitting in the dark dress is Eddie McDougall, and she is the teacher. She does this instruction at no cost for the quilting program and has done this for many years. And this is another display, the black and white. You need to be close to see it. We forget that the math that's involved in quilting, the stitching, if it's 10 stitches to an inch or even 12 stitches to an inch, is just amazing. That's done by these women. I wanted to share some statistics because I think it is important that they receive acknowledgement for the work that they are doing for our community. Since 2016, they have created 11,700 quilts, 530 shawls, 280 afghans, 1,000 hats, 2,200 bags, 1,350 pillows, lots of pillowcases, over 5,000 toys, blankets, number 300, dolls and gowns, 450, preemie hats, which is another popular items for our hospital, over 200. Fidgets, these are small, they're like placemats with things that individuals with dementia can play with. They're called fidget blankets. There have been over 400 of those for a grand total of 24,000 items that have been donated to East Bay Hospice, Kaiser Martinez, Kaiser Vallejo, the Martinez VA, Planned Parenthood, STAND, and 3 other organizations. Since July 1st, they have created 450 reversible placemats for Meals on Wheels for the holiday season. So if you have a moment on Thursday at 1 o'clock, please stop by and thank these women for the amazing work they have done with their hands and their heart and their souls, because it is just a joy to visit them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Florence.
So I wanted to start my board report with something I should have done after our previous item that we voted on, which is I just wanted to say a couple words about Lisa Keck and how excited I am to see her become the principal at Valhalla. When I look at her experience, and well, something that my colleague Ms. Hanson sometimes talks about is people who light up about certain topics, and Lisa Keck is someone who lights up when she talks about education, when she talks about kids, and also when she talks about her community in Pleasant Hill. And so I'm just so excited to see this for her. My relationship with her goes back, and she's actually the one who taught me about the TOSA program and many of the other great things that are done here in our district. And so it's just so nice to see her, as well as her husband Jim, who've been such strong members of our community, both from a community standpoint, but also as part of MDUSD. And so I just wanted to say an extra special congratulations. Secondly, I wanted to thank Ms. Durkee for mentioning the first lecture series that we had. I was honored to have the chance to introduce Dominic and Machi as he talked about not just what he's done so far with his team, which his team did an outstanding job. My boys were quite grateful because they had that as dinner, so they loved the pasta. And it was perfectly timed because it was right before basketball practice. And the staff at Oak Grove did a great job of hosting, but not just what we've done, but also I think what was really important was sharing just honestly sharing the limitations of what we can do and some of the obstacles that we face as we seek to improve the food in our district for our students. And some of his plans, as well as some of the challenges that he and his team are facing. So I thought that was really informative, and wanted to say thank you for that. And then third, Dan Reynolds is not here tonight to talk about banned books, which I think would be a first. But I take great pride in the fact that in my term on the board, we have not banned any books. And I kind of keep waiting for a good challenge. Like, I want someone to come and ask us to ban a book. And my belief is that, formally, and I'm willing to take that on, because I think that our students deserve access to information, and that although there might be dangerous ideas in books, it's a lot more dangerous not to provide our students with information and knowledge. And I'm proud of our continued support of academic and intellectual freedom, and I look forward to us continuing to champion that, and I thank my board colleagues in their support of that. Thank you.
Can I get mine and then we'll remain? We save the best for last. Nobody wants to follow. No, nobody wants to go after her, that's right. So I too went to the speaker series. I agree, it was very nice. I went to the parent meeting, but most of my report tonight's going to be about Friday in Bay Point. We had a fire in Bay Point Friday that displaced 50-something residents. It was an apartment complex that burned, and I was actually excited about going out to Rio Vista because they were having their movie night in conjunction with the sheriff's department, when I got a phone call telling me that they were looking for a replacement for these families, because they had initially went to the Ambrose Community Center, which told them come 9 o'clock they were out on the street, because we don't have people that work at Ambrose at night, which is a topic for another meeting, probably the Board of Supervisors. But I was very proud that Dr. Meyer called me and said that we were going to make Riverview available to those families. I went and checked on the movie night. Everything was going well there, and the vice principal, Katie Coons, was there holding down the fort, while her principal, Liz Lanfranchi Law, was over at Riverview checking on families. I went to Riverview. The principal of Riverview, Eric Wood, was there. The principal from Shore Acres, Salim Mamoon, was there. The principal from Bel Air had called from Oregon to say he was sorry he couldn't be there to support his families. Our head of elementary education, Jose Espinoza, was there. Our head of M&O, Richard Jackson, was there. We learned how to put cots together. We learned how to make a space available when you're working with the Red Cross. But it was really, really touching to me to see our custodial staff, our security staff, and I bet a lot of people here at the district office that were there in a minute for those families in Bay Point. And while there might have only been 5 to 8 people that came down there, they had been displaced from their home, and then they'd been displaced from their first place where they were supposed to stay. And it was just really, really appreciated and talked about throughout the community, how Bay Point is really a small community that's a family, and it's very apparent that Mount Diablo School District is part of that family. So for all of you that stepped up, thank you so very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Megan from Mount Diablo High School.
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Myers, members, superintendents, council, and members of the audience. My name is Megan, and I'm the ASB president for Mount Diablo High School. I've been heavily involved in ASB leadership since my freshman year in high school, and I'm sad, yet kind of excited to say that this is my last year in MDHS. But on to more important news. Our leadership class, now full of all grades including freshmen, has been settling down and taking a more steady pace after the craziness that was homecoming week. From spirit days such as college gear day to lunchtime activities such as obstacle courses, our class has managed to still stay very busy through promoting school spirit. We've also been meeting with clubs, and we're very proud to say that we have 23 clubs and growing, which is a huge improvement from the previous year. In other news, mock elections are tomorrow for juniors and seniors, and I'm really excited to do it because I feel like it's a great experience for students to really understand the importance of voting, and it's a really great way to get a real hands-on experience. Wednesday is Mount Diablo's first school day SAT, which is very exciting for our school career center because we have a new college and career advisor, and he's been really working hard since his previous year last year. His name is Mr. Brian Brown, and it's really exciting for him to see him do so much change in our school in the little amount of time he's been here. Lastly, Title I night is on Thursday, and students and parents have been heavily encouraged to attend because we are a Title I school, and the funding we get from that, from Title I is really important, and it's also kind of what represents our school, so we're excited for that, and leadership is getting ready for that, and that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And while you're welcome to stay the entire evening, if you need to go home and do homework, we will understand that. And with that, we will go to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Megan, for that report, and thank you to all of the board members. It's really interesting to listen to each of them because you all bring your individual interest and excitement to your report, so thank you. To start out, this is one of our students, and here she is with her avid binder. It looks almost as big as she is, so I thought that was a great look, but I love this. She has the hope in her face and really excited about school. I know, I didn't take it, but it's a great shot. It's cutie. And I put this in every time, but I think it's important to come back to it. And just knowing that our vision and what we believe in is that it is our imperative, our moral imperative, to prepare all of our students for post-secondary success. So that could be college, that could be career. Here we have our workability students, and they are entering the workforce and really going in wherever they're ready. So very excited about that. And some of the things that we're focusing on to make sure that happens is that all students are able to become literate, to read, to write and communicate, and to make math meaningful. So those are the things that we're focusing on. Lots of things have been going on, but I learned a new word this semester called charrette. And this is a business meeting where many people came together to work on our facility plan for the district. And I'm sure we could research the root of that some other time. But we brought teachers, classified staff, mostly our district staff first, counselors, principals, different leadership, to look at pictures of what buildings could look like, what spaces could look like for learning, and just really to think differently. So our next step will be now to go out to the community to talk to them and engage with parents and students about what they think our buildings could be. So we're very excited about that. We have so many meetings at Willow Creek, and I often feel like I'm just showing you pictures of backs of heads. So this time I put the front of the building as well, but we've had our superintendent meeting where we worked on our budget, and our principals got together to look at the budget and learn about the things that they need to watch out for. I think Rose Ramos, our CBO, had the top 10 things from our audit, you know, kind of like David Letterman, but worse. So we talked about ways that we could improve and things to watch out for. And then we also have had professional development there going on in all kinds of ways, certainly around different ideas about safety and working with students, but also with our English learners. And so we've had some great work that happened this last week with our K through 3 teachers in our bilingual education program, and they are just the most lovely group. When I left, they patted me on the shoulder and said, "Take care of yourself." And I thought, that doesn't happen at the principals' meetings, but it did happen at K3, and so I'm going to go back. I want to say we heard a lot about this, and I think when you go from 22 in the county to 4 finalists, and out of the 4 finalists, 2 I truly was jumping for joy, as were many of you who were there and all of you who attended. We were so excited. Kelly Perkins on the left and Rosie Reed on the right. This hands up in the air is the moment they found out, so they love that picture and they're very excited about it. Really, two amazing stories. Kelly spoke of how she had a student that was left by her parents due to one being sent back to another country and the other leaving them, and she brought this young person into her home and they lived with her, and just how that really saved her at a difficult time when she thought she was helping the student was helping her. So that was a wonderful story. And Rosie is really championing the idea of books, as was mentioned, and that we don't have enough books that represent all of us. That we often, I'm Mark and Janet, some maybe Dick and Jane, and I don't know what came after that, but you can kind of tell how old everyone is by that. But there's certainly, you didn't see everybody in those books, certainly not in Mark and Janet. But she is looking to expand our libraries across really the nation, I think, is her mission. So very exciting to see them both, and we're very, very proud. Speaking of proud, we have a Valhalla transition, and Valhalla is 50-ish, and I think it's impolite once you get past 50 to get too specific, but we had a 50th celebration, and they found out when they were digging through the archives, they're really 53, but I get that. I really do. I want to say that Margie Cal back here, and there were so many alum that came to the event, from the Boy Scouts and the singers, the MC, a big faction of College Park was over here on the right that sang, played piano. They were so talented and amazing. And we had former principals. Joan Evans from 1983 to 1986 was there. Rose Locke, 1994 to 1998 was there. And Brandon Kruger from 1998 to 2002. And so with Margie, it was just well represented. It was a lot of fun, a lot of memorabilia, and they're very excited about what has been happening and what is going to happen in the future. So we've got a Valhalla night. And I also want to mention our Community Advisory Committee met last week, and we had a wonderful presentation by Amy, and she presented on different curricular strands in severely handicapped classes. And you can tell, is an amazing teacher and now an amazing teaching instructor, and just talked about what that would look like, and she did a fantastic job presenting. And there's always something that you learn when you go to the CAC. It's a great meeting. Wanted to also share, we talked about it a little bit, the internship celebration was at DVC, and we had Mariam Adelot and Heather Fontanella, kind of hard to see them, in the beautiful Diablo room at DVC. And Ms. Hanson, thank you for attending as well. It was a great event, and a lot of wonderful internships for our students. And Megan, are you in an internship? No, you're an ASB. You don't have time to be in an internship.
Summers now.
Oh.
Summers, you're graduating.
I know. It's just too much work.
All right. Well, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I know Mount Diablo High has a lot of internships, so I was just taking a shot. But you still have time. Plenty of time. We have them here. You can come here. Concord High Career Fair. College Park had one of these last year. Concord had their first annual this year. And it was a wonderful focus on the trades and the different jobs Ms. Durkee mentioned, and really exciting stuff happening. Their college and career advisor put this together, and they've had a couple of great events that were first annual in the last year or two. So we look forward to seeing them established and continue. So very exciting about Concord High's career fair. We also had a groundbreaking. You voted on the Mount Diablo Elementary School field, and you see how quickly it happened. The ground, I think it was already broken. That was part of the problem. But they're there with the shovels, and this really was part of our maintenance and operations. Richard Jackson, John Wilford. We had our hard hats, and everyone had their shovels pointed in the right direction, and it was a very wonderful thing. And we had parents, community, and student who was in the after-school program there. So they're behind the beautiful backdrop of Mount Diablo. Moving forward as well, we heard a lot, so now we can see our first annual speaker series, Healthy Children Make Stronger Learners. We had introduction by board member Lawrence, who talked about not only switching the nutrition and going from foods that are packaged to food to looking at healthy options that aren't packaged and don't use a lot of other materials. The classic example he gave is the apple. It comes in a pretty good package itself, bananas do as well. So, and here he is introducing that, and also talked about the efforts to have the water stations in every school. So that is something we're going to do. And up in the middle there, we have one of our folks from the cafeteria who had the pasta. Locally sourced. All the food is made from scratch, and we're working to have more food from scratch at our schools. And also you can see Dominic Machi, who is here presenting to a really pretty good crowd. We're going to look at food at all of our speaker series. I think that might be the missing ingredient. But also here you can see the Lawrence family. We had these two ringers in the back who kept asking questions like they were there or something, and they really knew what was going on with the food, as I'm sure you could, Megan, because you see it every day. So great questions, a great evening, and a great start to our speaker series. And we'll have more coming out on that. Last Friday, we also, we have so much going on in our district. At Meadow Homes, we have every Friday Platicas, where parents and community members come together. And this last Friday, they partnered with Monument Impact to talk about vaping, and they had great information from Monument Impact to share with the parents about what the products look like, how they look like a thumb disk or thumb drive or just a little pen, and how easy it is to hide them. And the bottom picture here has some candy, but they have talked about how they put these materials right next to the candy in the stores, and they're wrapped very much with the shiny colors like the candy. And they had a map that I don't have shown that shows where they sell all of these vaping things, and then they overlaid our schools on top of them, and they are clustered around our schools. Not a surprise, but not something that we're happy about. So this organization is working with city councils, etc., to talk about how we can at least restrict it, put it behind the counter, not make it just out there. So this community group is just wonderful, and thank you to Principal Fireman as well for her work in Platicas, and Marta, who is the community liaison. And they always have breakfast. And this Saturday we had the Ed Foundation 5K, and you can see it was a really fun event. It was we partnered with Yours Humanely, and as my husband said, it's only 3 miles, Nellie, because I thought I'm doing a 5K. But it was an easy 3 miles. It wasn't that long, but it was fun. You can see a lot of our staff came out. The Ed Foundation, the bottom right here, you can see Ms. Mayo, who was manning a table, and one of the younger winners of the 5K there. This picture in the middle, these are the real runners that came in a relatively short time. I didn't see them. They left before I finished. But this group as well were the walkers. It was really nice to be there. We had Northgate Madrigals. They sang the national anthem. The YV cross country team also, they whipped around there very quickly. The office manager at YV won first place in her age group, and so she's quite a runner, Eugenia Behar. And so it was just a fantastic event and very enjoyable for a nice Saturday before the smoking.
Yes.
Right before. And here we have some civic engagement. You can see we had some students in Bay Point who were advocating for our bond measure that was voted on by this body. But it was a large group from Mount Diablo High. So I keep asking you these things. I'll stop. But yes, it was a great morning, and it was Sunday, so they also got out there.
There were 44 students from Mount Diablo High School that participated in the walk on Sunday.
And it's 44 from Mount Diablo High. It's so wonderful to get involved in civic engagement of all kinds and really to know what's going on in your community and decide on either side how you feel about it. So next time. Okay. Also wanted to share, it's been really busy. We have parent advisory, and we do this to inform our local control accountability plan. During that meeting, we had the regular district updates. We had an engagement activity where we asked the groups in each of the feeder patterns what was working, and they really honed in on the extracurriculars. Arts, they got very specific about what kinds of arts, drama, etc., music. STEM with the hands-on projects, robotics, etc. But they really talked about what they were doing as parent groups to build morale and excitement within their community and how they could share that with other schools that may not have that quite yet. So that was something that they emphasized that was working. One thing they said was in need of an improvement. Crossing guards, that was a big topic. Really that traffic safety regardless. I will share October 17th, we're having a kickoff with Concord PD at Highlands Elementary with Diablo Street Smarts, where they do talk about the education around pedestrian safety. And they have already gone to several schools already this year, but that will be the official kickoff. They were curious about math, especially elementary math curriculum. That came up. And tech support, because we've invested a lot in tech now. And what happens when it breaks? It hasn't yet, but they brought that up. Facilities were discussed and needs and interests, as well as making smooth transitions from elementary to middle and middle to high. So those were all things that they felt we need to work on as a system and continue to talk about. And then lastly, we asked them, what would you like more information on? They were interested in, what happens when the kid goes to the principal's office? Because they said, we don't see it, we don't know, and there's all this kind of nothing happens or too much happens. So they wanted information on that. And they also wanted information on mathematics, K-12. So those are some of the things we will have for future discussion. And then a couple people, I don't think I could say what you said so well, but I will mention that there were two other people that were jumping on the phone and texting. Linda Mayo and Jose Espinosa immediately were fighting with each other for text time because Linda Mayo has an emergency alert for fire, or your husband?
No, this came through CSBA.
Okay.
Another county board member, a school board member within the county was at a conference in in San Diego, and she was contacted to try and help secure a location for the displaced families. So there were multiple, outreaches to identify a site for our families, and Mount Diablo stepped up to the plate.
So miles and miles away, and so Jose and then Rose too was on the phone communicating with Richard. It was really a wonderful effort, and you can see here, if you think of where you were Friday night, this is where they were Friday night. And so they were there putting up cots, and they were there putting everything together. We still have some people who are sleeping there. We had 17 students. As you said, over 50 people who were displaced, and so we will have more information. They're collecting different things, clothing. They really did lose everything. So not all of them, but most everything. So it hit an apartment complex and some homes next door. So you can see Jose Espinoza in his Raiders gear on Friday night, Ms. Mason in her Mickey Mouse gear, more Raiders, and Lislyn Frigila and Salima Moss in the Red Cross. And then lastly, another Friday night, this is Ignacio Valley High cheer, junior cheer. And so this is one of our staff members, her kids. And so she took a shot of them. And so that's my board report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That takes us to presentation. And I have a speaker card. So, Aline, do you want to come up with the group, or you want to? Okay, I'll let you lead the way.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. President of the school board, Mason, Vice President, Hanson, school board members, Durkee, Lawrence, Mayo, Superintendent Dr. Nellie Meyer, Assistant Superintendent Jose Espinoza, Assistant Superintendent Mike Menez, General Counsel. Thank you so much for having us here. It's a joy to talk about Wren Avenue Elementary School of the Arts. So, and I apologize if I end up going into a cough attack. I apologize. It's the first cold in 3 years, of course tonight, right? But that's okay. I have many to support and back me up, because what we want to share is our success and invite you personally to our Arts Fall Showcase Magnet Night, where the community comes out and will be delighted by fine arts, music, dance, liveliness, a gallery walk of accomplishment. And to showcase it a little further of our first full year of implementation, and this year, I have brought for you our documentary, a public announcement about how wonderful these people have brought the arts to the community and the students.
Welcome to Wren Avenue Elementary. We are the new School of the Arts. We are following the Magic School program, where parents, community, staff are all engaged in working with the students through the arts.
Our objective here is to create students, to facilitate their development as artists. We interject the arts into the other subjects as much as we can.
This was a project that we did based on the artist Jackson Pollock. We listened to music, just like Jackson Pollock did when he painted, and they kind of let the music guide their motion. And then I had them on the back here is a writing piece that they did about it after we painted. So this integrated language arts, we read a story, art, music, and then writing. We are incorporating all kinds of arts in every schedule every week, so that it all connects right back to our theme of Arts Magnet.
Our primary focus, of course, is the core of English language arts, math, science, social studies, and physical education. Our secondary focus, we want to cover all the arts strands, which include music, dance, theater, visual arts, and media arts. And we have chosen, as part of our innovative curriculum, to also include culinary arts and creative writing.
At Magnet's Art School, it's prone to every art. And that's why I like our school, because there's so many things that you can do.
Arts programs in elementary schools have resulted in significant improvements in the quality of the school climate. We could not find any negative research about incorporating arts into your programs.
And so we're trying to develop children starting at a kindergarten to think of themselves as an artist and someone who is capable of art. I work closely with our school counselor to provide art therapy. So if they don't feel good on the playground, they might come on in and be able to create something. So we try to provide different opportunities for children to express themselves and help them find a way to deal with their feelings in a really constructive way.
The more we include and live and breathe art, we're opening up that creative side of our children's minds. And the more creative they get, the happier they are, the more excited they are to come to school.
Que sí les ayuda mucho porque no lo ven como algo rutinario, algo aburrido, sino algo más divertido.
We would be more than happy if you're interested to come and see what we're doing here at Wren Avenue.
Come on board and welcome to Wren.
So please, if you could come on Tuesday night, the 16th at 6 p.m. to partake in our live event, our performance, if you will. We would gladly appreciate it. By the numbers, we know that we have hit the magnet pillars of diversity. We have 128 EL students representing 25 different languages, 59% of them speaking Spanish. So many of them come to our ELAC meetings, represented on DLAC, and they truly want to make the academic rigors for their student better. As is evident with the SBAC scores for our EL students, they've increased, and I'm happy to report that they've increased significantly by 10.4%. So we are the arts work, integrated arts work, and I want to thank you for helping us, sponsoring us, having the Alameda County Integrated Arts Program come and show us how to integrate Common Core and the arts and make it live. Hands-on projects significant to everyone's lives. So it's made a difference in our ELA numbers, our ELD numbers, our math numbers. We have increased, as is evident from last year's fall 2017 scores, and attendance. Our chronic attendance rate has significantly decreased by 4.3%. Students want to be at Wren. They love Wren. And this year, we've emphasized and layered a new element. Last year, we focused on fine arts. This year, we're focused on music. So I also want to invite you in January on the 12th that our students, our choir is singing at Oracle Arena for a basketball game, and they've been practicing. That's what we call a teaser. So please come on board. We really are invested in making a better community. And as evident, one of our teachers would like to speak. Yes. Ms. Julie Snow.
Hi, I'm Julie Snow, I'm a 5th grade teacher, and I had the privilege of attending the training that we had this summer, the ILSP training for integrating the arts. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. It taught us strategies, and who knew that you could dance to the periodic table. I mean, but they showed us the water cycle, bringing music into things, but more importantly, it gave us confidence that we could do this. It also meshed with our PBIS in this district. It taught us, and for us, it was a review, quite honestly, about equity, teaching with love and respect, and thinking about where did my student come from, what is their home life, remembering to consider that in your teaching, especially when we're teaching something like the arts that maybe they have never been exposed to before. The training was phenomenal. We went through course A, we finished with A and said, okay, next week is B starting. And they said, no, it doesn't happen that quickly. You have to now go and implement it. And we said, but we want it, and we do want it. So we have 2 more pieces that the first group that went through has to take and, or I should say gets to take, because we really want to, and they were actually laughing at us because we were just really pushing them and said, well, can you go and talk to Miss Lee about letting us do it? And they said, it really doesn't work that way. But we want it. So thank you to you for being so open to allow us to take this training and to take this journey, because it is amazing. Thank you.
And evidence from our parent, Mr. Damian Anderson.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Damian Anderson. I am a parent at Wren Avenue. I actually reside right across the street, so I get our front stage view of the progress. I'm also on the school's SSC. That being said, I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son, and I can say that since the art program has come to Wren, I have personally, and my kids have seen a huge improvement in their academic and intellectual, I guess, freedom, as he was saying. I guess just to say that it works. It's a program that actually works. I'm actually a freshman. Sorry, guys. All right. And so I just want to let you guys know that this program, as far as art, I mean, when I think of art, I think of it as God has been the greatest artist, right? We look at creation, right? And I think that when you implement that concept with your kids, to let them to be able to be their own guys, their own creator, that it just helps them to basically create a reality, or give them the ideas and tools to create a reality in the way in which they like to see. And so I think that this program is giving them the tools and the ability to do so. Thank you.
So please investigate. Here's our website, wrenav.mdusd.org. Come on board, visit, stop by anytime. We would love to show you our students, because it's about them. Their rigor of academic excellence, their strive for creativity, their hands-on vigor, and their love for being there. So thank you. Thank you for your support and your sponsorship. Have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And it's about family. So
Yeah.
thank you, family.
That takes us to our consent agenda. Items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved or adopted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. Is there any desire to pull anything from the consent agenda? If there isn't, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Second. That passes 5-0. Okay, we don't have any cards for communications, is that correct? Okay, so we will get on to our business and action items. 18.1, public hearing regarding sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials for the 2018-2019 school year. Do I officially open the public hearing? It is so open. Anybody wishes to address us on their concerns? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. This is an action item. That's the action. Okay, contract between Mount W Unified School District and Abbott for continued implementation of College Park, Concord, Ignacio Valley High School, El Dorado, Oak Grove, Pleasant Hill, and Sequoia Middle Schools, College Now, Bel Air, Monument, Mountain View, Rio Vista, and Shrakers Elementary Schools, and new implementation at Delta View, Hidden Valley, and Highlands Elementary Schools. Right.
So first I'd like to point out all of those wonderful schools. And we have a brief introductory. Oh, we need a vote on the textbook resolution.
I tried to, they didn't want to.
Okay.
It was a hearing, but he said we need to vote. It's a hearing and then we vote. Because there was.
What is the action?
The action is that there was an attachment that said everybody said they
Is
have
sufficient, yes. So we open the hearing and now we need the vote on sufficiency.
The textbook sufficiency resolution, it's numbered. Madam President, I move that the board adopt the textbook sufficiency resolution 2018-19 that is attached to agenda item 18.1.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, that passes, and now we're back to our Avid. You wanted to say something?
I did. I wanted to say that we started with just a few schools and we're growing and expanding. And we have a brief introductory, this is Avid video, and then a report from Team Avid, whom we have before us.
Who are we? We energize. We see potential.
We inspire students and families. And each other. We look up and lift.
We move. We are noisy and vibrant. We let our students do the talking.
And accept differing beliefs. We care. We build friendships, study groups, support networks, and strong relationships.
We honor diversity. We expect greatness.
Celebrate each other's achievement, help one another, close opportunity gaps.
We learn.
We ask why and question sources. Take notes. Then take more notes. Highlight and summarize our notes.
Learn to write and write to learn.
Collaborate and build on each other's ideas.
We explore in science and computer labs.
In the world outside the classroom.
We solve problems we know
we can do anything we set our minds to. We persist. We're not afraid of failure. We learn from it.
We can achieve and can show you proof.
We build leaders, confident
change agents.
We build futures.
We are Avid.
You are Avid.
This is Avid.
So I would like to introduce Jennifer Sachs, our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, who will guide us through some highlights about Avid.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to also introduce Susan Hartwig, who's a curriculum specialist that helps to oversee the Avid program in Mount Diablo, along with many, many other things. And we have Jeannie Johnson, who's also been supporting this work. So we'd like to get started to tell you a little bit about Avid in Mount Diablo, now that you've seen a little bit of a teaser, as Ms. Lee called it, for the program itself. So Avid, what is Avid exactly? It's advancement via individual determination, and really it was developed in 1980 by a high school teacher in San Diego, Mary Catherine Swanson. And it's really the idea is to raise expectations of students using a rigorous academic program. If you provide this to students, they will achieve. It's just as simple as that. So again, what is it? Exactly what does it look like in the classroom? It's setting up a school-wide college readiness system, structured support, an approach for rigorous curriculum, and it's really originally focused on first-generation college students, but in our system, it's actually been quite an infectious program, which is actually integrating throughout all of our different communities. Something that's really important to note is that the most powerful piece of this is that it's really got a school-wide approach, and it's really taking a look at your systems, your leadership, your instruction, as well as the culture. So what is college readiness defined? Well, this is a definition by Dr. David Conley, and it's really taking a look at these students and preparing them so when they do go to post-secondary, it's really focused on classes without that remediation, so they walk in prepared. I would like to just kind of add in there to our moral imperative is that it's not just about a baccalaureate degree, it's really about post-secondary success, whatever that looks like. So regardless if a student decides to go to a 2-year, 4-year, maybe a trade school, or just become employed right after high school, these skills are ones that are transferable to all of those different areas. So it goes back to our belief statement, and Dr. Meyer actually already kind of reviewed this during her slideshow, but it's important just to note that everything that we're doing with regards to Avid throughout our system is a way to put this into action. So we're extremely excited about what Avid has been doing. And what does it do? It develops readers and writers. It develops very deep content knowledge. And I would also say not only for the students, but for the teachers in the room, having them really be thoughtful about the practices that they're putting into their instruction each and every day. Teaches content-specific strategies for reading, writing, thinking, as well as speaking, and develops very, very strong study habits and skills that will actually serve these students as they move through Mount Diablo and then beyond to post-secondary success, as I mentioned. Avid is really not the what, that would be the Common Core, but we're really turning to Avid, and our schools have been utilizing Avid to really go deeper with the how. How are they providing rigorous instruction so all students can succeed? And so with that, I'm going to hand over the clicker to Susan Hartwig.
Good evening, everyone. I have actually one of the really fun parts of this. I get to show you kind of the growth that's been happening in our district. And so when you look back in 2015-16, we had a mere 4 schools, right? So it's been growing. This is 2016-17. Added a few more. That looks like 6. Then we go to the next year, 17-18. We've got 8, and then we go on to this past year. Actually, this year right now, we have now 15, and this is really exciting too. With the help of Jeannie, our wonderful instructional coach that's really doing kind of the brass tacks and the boots on the ground with the teachers and the students, she's been able to kind of bolster even more interest. And now we've got, for next year, we've got a few new hopefuls, is what we're calling them. So this is a really exciting thing for the Mount Diablo Unified. We're all very aware that we're in a very large organization, and it's very hard to find anything TK-12 that will unify a whole group, of teachers and students and families. So this is probably one of the most exciting initiatives when you think of it in terms of something that can unify an entire district. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie. Jeannie Johnson right here.
Thank you very much. I'm here to talk about the fun stuff, the stuff we see in the classroom every day. But first, I wanted to talk about what all these schools that Susan was referring to, what they committed to was to boost academic performance. And we look at that through instruction, leadership, systems, and culture. And this is really how our site teams measure their success. This is the, when you look at Avid Secondary, what's really unique about Avid Secondary in middle school and high school is that we have an Avid elective. And this is what our week looks like in an Avid elective. And one of I guess the core parts of the Avid elective is the tutorials that we have twice a week. We have college tutors come in, and we use Socratic method. We don't just help them, give them answers. We use Socratic questioning methods to get the answers out of them and to teach them how to collaborate. And then by their senior year, they're doing collaborative study groups like they would do in a regular college setting. So we're teaching them, and we're pulling away the scaffolding and teaching them to be independent. We also go on field trips. We have guest speakers. We teach them writing, and what we really focus that around is what we call WICR, which is our writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And that's just the fundamental core of our activities. So what I think WICR really brings about most is student engagement. It makes the classroom fun, and this is why a lot of the teachers are really embracing it school-wide. Finally, here's a few pictures of what we're seeing around the schools in our district. That college-going culture, college manners, college conversations, and there's some tutoring going on. The one up in the top right corner, we did that last week, having conversations in math using inquiry and writing. So that was really exciting. Finally, here's College Park, Avid Class of 2018, and we track our seniors and as far as four-year college attendance. And that's it. Thank you.
One last thing I'd like to mention is the fact that the school sites, regardless if they're elementary or secondary, they do really rate themselves on a continuum at the end of every year, and that data is actually kept by Avid. So all during the year they're keeping evidence. Actually at the elementary level they have to do this self-reflection twice a year. So it's not something that they go to one training, they come back, well that was great. It's something where they're actually tracking their success and how deep they're going over time. It's also a collaborative effort with regards to funding. We as a district do support our school sites with some of the expense, and then they themselves cover some of the expense. So it truly is a partnership that we're really very excited about, and we hope will continue to expand.
Anything else, Dr. Mark?
I just want to thank this team. We're very excited about Avid and how it can help transform our classrooms, and it really has gained such momentum, and the teachers and the students are very excited about it. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think we're going to need a meeting extension.
We have a motion here.
Oh, we got a motion on this one.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the contract between Mount Diablo Unified School District and Avid for continued implementation at College Park, Concord, Ignacio Valley High Schools, El Dorado, Oak Grove, Pleasant Hill, and Sequoia Middle, College Now, Bel Air, Mountain View, Rio Vista, and Shore Acres Elementaries, and new implementation at Delta View, Hidden Valley, and Highlands Elementary Schools.
Second.
Once I get a second, thank you, I would like to say that as a high school principal, I had the honor of starting an Avid program up in Fairfield. However, all we did was have it at high school, and I want to point out what our district has accomplished, and that is it's now in our middle schools and our elementary schools. And I can say as a high school principal, that was a great thing to have in a high school, but this is incredible. And so I'd like to say to Jen, to Susan, to Jeannie, thank you. This is an amazing growth and continuum, and Dr. Meyer, who's been spearheading this, because I saw those positive results for high school students, and that was kind of a later start, which is how it historically has been. So I love to just bust out history and do something better, and so thank you. It really does make a difference for students, and I saw that firsthand. So I'm very happy to support this and very proud of that expanded effort we've done.
Thank you. And that passes 5-0-0. Now, I don't think we need a meeting extension. A meeting is adjourned. Yep, we have things to sign.
And I didn't explain the envelope of tickets. I'm presenting each of you with tickets for the quilt drawing on December 1st. You don't need to be present to win, so please put your name, phone number, and email on the ticket, and I will turn it in. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
You will. You're not missing out.